I'm going to say I think the biggest impact on our defensive record, what's turned us from being really good over the last 3 seasons to elite and possibly record breakers, is what's up and welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal, who, as we all know, are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. And even if people don't all agree with that, many are coming around to the idea that we might very well be the best defence in the world. We're definitely the best defence in the Premier League at the moment, conceding 3 goals in the first 10 games. That's on track to beat Chelsea's record of 15 goals conceded in a season. We've played 4 games in Champions League and have yet to concede. In fact, we go games nowadays without even conceding shots on target. I can't be the only person who watched Slavia Praha's only shot on target right at the death and thought, that's a shame. But at the moment, we are getting all the plaudits for incredible defensive performances as a team. But I'm going to say I think there was one summer signing that's made all the difference and largely gone under the radar. And no, I'm not talking about Mosquera, who has looked incredible standing in for Saliba. Nor am I talking about Hincapié, who has, after an injury, started to get into the team and I think might be Arteta's long-term idea of a left-back. No, and I'm certainly not just talking about players that we signed before then either. And I know, look, it's natural in the summer transfer window to be focused on the players coming in. Whether you're going to sign the bags man, the top goal scorer, Gyökeres or Šeško, whether we're bringing in Rodrigo or Eze. In the end, I think it's starting to look like we had a really decent transfer window. But I'm going to say I think the biggest impact on our defensive record, what's turned us from being really good over the last 3 seasons to elite and possibly record breakers, is a coaching addition. And that is, of course, Gabiente. Now, when Carlos Cuesta announced he was leaving to go and take up a management role at Parma, it was really disappointing because he'd been lauded as a young, very, very good coach who really had the ear of the players. The players trusted him. He knew how to get the best out of them, was relatable to them. And it's not often that you're going to be happy when you lose somebody who's high profile like that. And the fact that he gets a management job at just 30 years old kind of shows the esteem that he's held in. And I didn't understand really when Gabiente came in. I couldn't see it. I mean, after all, this was a Man United player, a Real Madrid player. I was surprised. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. But to those of you who know their history a little bit better, you would have been less surprised. You would know that in 2001, when a young Spanish midfielder by the name of Mikel Arteta left Barcelona on loan to join Paris Saint-Germain, his first foray into football away from the Barcelona he'd grown up in, probably a little bit nervous, probably a little bit wide-eyed and starstruck. But at PSG, he became friends with Gabiente, a tough Argentine defender, and the two became close teammates, sharing the pitch, the training ground, but more importantly, a footballing mindset, discipline, intelligence, and control of the football. But Ainz is a warrior, passionate, uncompromising, respected everywhere he went. After PSG, he joined Manchester United, where he won the Sir Matt Busby Player of the Year award in 2005, his first season. That's ahead of players in that team like Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney. And actually, when you look at the list of people who've won the Sir Matt Busby award, it is incredible. Cantona, Ince, there's just so many great players. There's just so many great players on that list. So it's not an easy trophy to win. And it's by far not the only trophy that Gabiente has won in his career. He's got an impressive trophy haul of his own. So UEFA Intertoto Cup winner at Paris Saint-Germain. He won the Premier League at Manchester United in 06-07. He left Manchester United under a bit of a cloud despite being a fan's favourite and ended up winning La Liga with Real Madrid in 2008 as well as a Copa España. Supercopa de España. He left there to go to Marseille, where he won Liga in 2009-10, Coupe de Ligue in 9-10 and 10-11. But he also won the Olympic gold with Argentina and 70 caps for an Argentine national side. So Gabiente's CV shows us he's a proven winner and a fan's favourite wherever he goes, because of his never say die attitude, his winning spirit, his warrior mentality. It's really what he does as a coach that's of most interest to us, right? So even though he didn't have a proper coaching license at the time, he began working as a manager for Godoy Cruz in the Argentina Primera División. On the 12th of July, he won 3-0 at home on his debut, but he was sacked a couple of months later. He then signed for Vélez Sarsfield, having led the team to 2 Copa Sudamerica qualifications. He chose not to, and this was a team that was relegation threatened, and he turned them into contenders. But he retired. He quit that in 2019-2020 season and took on a job at Atlanta United. This is where it gets really interesting, because this is a very colourful character. He's known for being strict, beyond strict at times. He was dismissed by Atlanta under a bit of a cloud. Didn't last very long there, and a lot of his methods were called into question, would be putting it lightly. He was actually brought up on charges. Some of the things he was accused of, like not allowing the players to hydrate during coaching, really tough sessions that kind of went beyond sort of what the modern millionaire footballer will tolerate. Probably the kinds of things that were average when he was a player. But in the end, they decided to let him go, and a lot of these grievances haven't been aired, apparently for his own reputation's sake. So he finds himself at a bit of a loose end. Arteta obviously plays some part in bringing him to Arsenal. I think it's a brilliant decision. It's not just his defensive pedigree that I think is really important. This is, after all, a player, as I've said, who at the highest level has distinguished himself, both as a left-back and a centre-back. And it's the fine margins that separate champions from runners-up. Someone who's played at that level could give us the extra edge. But there's also a cultural side to this. He's South American like Martinelli and Gabriel Magalhaes. He speaks Spanish, understands Latin football culture. He brings an emotional intensity to training. He's definitely not there to smile for photos. He's there really to push standards. And what we can expect from him as a coach, what you would expect from him as a coach, is tighter transitions between defence and attack, more aggression in duels and pressing triggers, and mentorship for the young defenders. And we're seeing that. I think we're really seeing that. This season, more than any other, we attack to defend. From Gyökeres up front, who throws himself around. Of course, we've always been good at the high press, but now we do not let players come onto us at all. We are straight into them with that warrior spirit. And there is a determination as a team that none shall pass. And I think that's the kind of warrior spirit you see, a reflection of Gabience's own playing style. Look, I've joked about this. I think there's one thing knowing that if you've gone in and it's been a draw and you've disappointed Mikel Arteta, I'm sure the players will think of him as ruthless and they look up to him. But I don't think they're ever going to be as frightened of him as they are going into a dressing room with Gabience. He is take no prisoners. And I think that spirit is starting to permeate not just the defence but a whole team. Seeing him train with the team, you do get a sense of nothing but the best is good enough. And so I really think that what we're seeing at Arsenal now is a reflection of that attention, that aggression, that determination, which I think is possibly what's been lacking the last few years, because we've looked like we want to win, but now I think we're starting to look like we have to win and we demand to win. And even a shot on target against us is not good enough. And I don't know if that's sustainable. It's not I don't have a crystal ball any more than you do. I'm enjoying it though, because I remember the George Graham era and I remember the back five that we had then, and the idea that this back five, and after all, look, I will say this, we have just equalled a 122-year record for clean sheets. It's been 776 minutes since we conceded a goal. In all of those minutes, we've conceded very few shots on target. Now, it is still early days. I know there's not a trophy for 10 games in, fewest goals conceded. But if I'm right, and I really hope I am, then Heinze is the difference. We're more competitive. We're more determined than ever. And I think even though this transfer might have flown a little bit under the radar, I think we're all going to be celebrating it. And so I think that he has injected that little something extra into our team that's going to help us for the first time in 22 years get over the finishing line. But I want to know from you, have I seen too much in this? After all, when Arteta's asked about it, he always refers to the fact that there's lots of coaches, we do lots of work as a team, etc., teamwork. And I think that's important, it's an emphasis. But watching Gabience take training, watching how the players are out there snarling, snapping, come on. He's played his part already, hasn't he? Is he the difference? Or is it just a natural evolution? The player's getting better year on year. Am I putting too much credit on Gabby Hence's shoulders? Let me know in the comments what you think. And until I see you again, be lucky. Lots of love.